Right. Morning. So, this morning we're going to look at some headlines and news for coronavirus and SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19. A lot in the news with all these new variants, vaccines. When are we general public? And is this thing ever going away? I want to know that. Unfortunately, most of the stuff is still the same, but I think if we try to keep in the forefront of our mind precautions and staying up to date on this news and kind of making it a general practice, hopefully we can get out of this sooner than later. But if we try to ignore it, continue saying that we're in control of our lives and we don't have to listen to anybody else, then it might be a little longer than we want. First thing I kind of want to look at, kind of pulling up NPR is what I listen to every morning. Like, they do a pretty good job on covering everything, but under the health section, this is saying reinfections are more likely with coronavirus variants, evidence suggests. So, what is this evidence? I've seen a lot. The coronavirus variants, the mutations, those are happening at the level of the spike protein, which is the little thing on the virus that attaches to the ACE2 receptor in our nasopharynx, trachea, and lungs. So just basically this area right here. They're saying in April, COVID-19 hit the city of Manus. So I don't like the way they word this. It's not COVID-19. It's SARS-CoV-2. COVID-19 is the disease process. The virus can infiltrate the city, but if it's the disease, I think this wording is important. That's why we have words. Let's use it correctly. You have much more people becoming infected, and that includes people inside their households. The surge is so large that hospitals have run out of oxygen, and patients on ventilators who need extra oxygen to breathe have literally suffocated in hospital beds. I'm really afraid. I'm seeing a lot of people dying. Now, that's absolutely awful. But there's reports coming out of South Africa of one doctor that is now using bronchoscopy to alleviate this acute respiratory distress syndrome in his ventilated patients. These patients progressively get worse. They get put on a ventilator. As the virus takes its course and inflammation increases, he said they're developing what we call a mucus plug. So inside of our lungs, due to inflammation, it's just making a lot of fluids. And in that fluid, it kind of hardens, becomes this mucus, and plugs up all the smaller airways. And when you can't ventilate that area, decrease blood flow to that area, you basically just shut down that lung. And then it's harder for that lung to reopen the longer it's shut down. We call it, atelectasis, and alveolar recruitment goes down. So this doctor was doing bronchoscopy, which is sticking a tube down into the lungs with a camera, and he's identifying these areas of mucus plugs and sucking them out. And he's saying that he's had a 90% plus success rate in doing this in his patients, and he said he's done about 40 or so, which is not a lot, and it's an anecdotal story saying that it's not a research study, but in this case you can't do it. If you trust him and his credentials as a physician, his skill, and give him an integrity, and trust what he says, then there's no reason this shouldn't apply to the general population. He said the patients that did die, it was just due to disease progression and not the procedure itself. So bronchoscopy is very common. All ICUs in the United States are capable of doing this, and it's not very dangerous at all. The fear of doing this in an intubated patient is bronchio or laryngospasm, where we shut off the airway anyway. Luckily, this person that we would do it to has the definitive airway, meaning we have a tube in their trachea. We don't have to really worry about losing that. Plus, they're going to die anyway, so why not do anything to prevent it? So I think the more that news gets out about doing this procedure, it could help save a lot of lives. Another reason people don't want to do it is transmission increase. So you're in the airway where the virus lives, and you're sticking tubes and stuff in, but kind of what you sign up for. We're your frontline worker and helping out. You got to risk it. Look at the people in Ebola that helped those people out. Part of the calling. Plus, we're really good at, we're diligent about our personal protective equipment. Cut down on that. So the new variants, the one thing that's going to affect the variant is if it's not, if it bypasses the vaccine. So far, the UK one does not, and it actually responds better to the vaccine. But the less is known about the South African variant. Also, these infectivity, the ability to cause increased infection is done in vitro, which means it's done in a test tube, or that's where we study this. We don't study it in vivo, where we're looking at it inside of a body. So inside of a petri dish or in a test tube, we put the virus and we put blood from a person that has either natural immunity from being sick or has antibodies from the vaccine. See how well those antibodies neutralize this virus inside the serum in the test tube. Stuff acts a lot different when it's in the body, but it gives us a good idea. So there's not a lot to be known about that just yet. Let's see. China has a new vaccine rolling out around the world. Will it work? Well, yes. If it's rolling out, then it's going to work. How well is it going to last against variants? Nothing. But they're not going to put the vaccine out willy-nilly without it working. So headlines like this, you got to look into them and understand that they're trying to get you to read it. They don't care about the substance of it as much. I would hope the journalistic integrity is higher than that. And that's kind of what we're looking for right now, is we have the two major vaccines out on the market. General population doesn't look like they'd get one until late spring, summer. But we knew that from the beginning. This is not something new that's coming up today. We knew that is when general population would get vaccines with supply, and the way we divvied those out with health or frontline workers first. So I don't really want to go into that. Let's see. Check out. So I just typed in COVID-19 news. This is actually pretty cool on Google. Gives you an overview, statistics of your local area, coping strategy, which is actually, I think, very good. How do we deal with this shit now that we're all in it, suffering day to day? You get testing information, so it gives you all the places in your area, health info, and then you want to go to the news. So Hong Kong to impose lockdown. Should we be in a lockdown? Yeah, if you're complaining and going out to eat and doing stuff and you're afraid of a lockdown, yet you're not locking down, then we're going to lock down. But if we take this vaccine, social distance, by not going out and doing random unnecessary stuff, then this will be over. But if you're not going to take the vaccine and you're going to complain about staying in, then it's not going to be over. And you're the problem, fortunately. But we're all collectively, as a group, not working together, not supporting each other. We're all the problem. Because if somebody does feel that way, then it's our responsibility as friends of that person to help alleviate their stress. Be there for them so they don't have to feel like that. So all of our faults, no matter if you believe in vaccines or not, we need to take care of each other. So you can't pin it down on one person. Latest on coronavirus pandemic. Well, so I mean, we're having increased testing, so we're gonna have increased rates. If you look at some, I think back here there was this graph, and it kind of shows you, boom, we have this big thing around November. Well, our testing's going up. We got the vaccines rolling out. I think that's kind of why you see graphs like that. We are going to have increased deaths. I hope we start seeing more implementation of that bronchoscopy. It sounds like, duh, why haven't we done this in the past? Like steroids, duh, and bronchoscopy, I think that should be high up on the list of getting those people. If we suck out those mucus plugs, then we basically stop what the virus has done to us, right? And this virus is causing a double hit on the lungs and cardiovascular system. Like I said, you decrease air, you decrease blood flow hand in hand, increase blood pressure. You suffer from heart disease, hypertension, cardiomyopathy, secondary to either heart attacks or cardiovascular disease or high blood pressure. You're going to suffer more from this disease because this virus acts like a vasculitis. Because it works on the ACE2 receptor, is a blood pressure receptor. Once that virus binds that, it cranks it and basically causes local inflammation, local clotting factors. So it's not a good thing if people are already sick, and majority of us are not healthy. We are diabetic. We have hyperlipidemia. We have all the risk factors because that's what we get from being privileged and having luxury at our hands. Is kind of start lacking care of ourselves. Um, Nothing's changed when it comes to prevention. With any of the new variants, it's the same. The variant doesn't infect the body, as in get into the macro sense of our body any easier. It only gets into the cellular level easier. So it has to be inside your mouth or your nose to exhibit its increased efficacy in infecting you. But when it's outside of your body, it's not any more powerful than the other one before. So if you're doing your masks, cleaning yourself, it's all about washing hands too. Doesn't matter if you touch your mask. If you take that off and touch yourself, you're gonna get sick. We just need to be careful about who we're around and what we do there. You can get seen early if you are tested positive or you have all the symptoms. I don't really feel like you need to go get tested because it's pretty obvious that you have it. Once your symptoms start to get severe, like you start to notice a noticeable decrease in your breathing, then go to the hospital. Now, some people might not say that. They might say wait, and that's only because the hospitals are busy. But that's not good medical practice. You need to go the second that your ABCs are compromised, which is your airway, breathing, or circulation. Sometimes our breathing drive, especially in children, once that gives out, they'll push, and then they'll just drop suddenly. So with children that have symptoms, it's very important to get them in before symptoms get severe. And with regular adults and elderly people, it's the same thing. But with children, they'll truck along until they're not. They don't slowly get worse. They power on and then just turn an off button. So it's very scary with children. But with all of us, don't tough it out. You don't need to be strong. If you can get to a hospital, and if you're blessed to have a hospital that doesn't have, triage out in the parking lot, then go. Prevent yourself. You don't want to be on a ventilator because then you're going to get a pneumonia. And it doesn't seem good once you get on the ventilator. The ventilator doesn't help the disease. Ventilators just don't do that in general. Very archaic now. Especially if everybody's stressed. The more stressed as a system is, the more mistakes that are going to happen. So it's a dangerous time to be hospitalized, but I'm not saying it's not what you should be doing. I kind of want to look into this coping. So, take care of your body, exercise, plenty of sleep, stay healthy, well-balanced meals. Easier said than done, especially with the alcohol and drugs. You're stuck inside. You have little resources to get your dopamine fix naturally, and we're having dopamine depletion drug at our fingertips every day. Computers, cell phones, Netflix, video games. It's all designed nowadays to be a dopamine, squirt button. So we're already on some type of drug as it is, constantly needing that positive reinforcement this gives us. And if anybody has taken drugs or alcohol to some extent, you notice the depression that comes with that when you can't use it. So I saw something that was saying you need to take a dopamine purge or a dopamine rest, and getting off social media and kind of stuff like that, because this is acting like a drug. So whether you're not physically addicted to a substance, you're still suffering the same consequences of an addiction. And that's harder to notice. It's more acceptable. Not going to get help for it. And you may just think of it, I'm depressed, life sucks. And snowballing from there without a support group can get very dangerous. So watch out for that. Just talk about it more. Testing. Do it, yeah, but yeah, when it comes to reading headlines, just be cautious of what a headline says. It's made to get your attention. It's made to make you click on it and read it. They don't have to worry about you buying a newspaper. But as long as you click on it really fast, if it makes it seem scary, you're going to click on it. But we already know everything that we know. Nothing really new is coming up. But the headlines make it seem so. What do I need to do about this new variant? Nothing. Do the same thing we told you to do 6 months ago. What about the vaccines? When the vaccines first rolled out and we bought the millions of doses, we told you a timeline when you're going to get them. Nothing's changed there. Nothing is new. But we keep going to the same sources because we need to know something. But I think it's more prudent to spend time with your family, friends, at least in a social aspect of the group that you're with now, not go out of your way. But, pay more attention to that than you do to the news. I read this and I didn't find anything new. And so much being said without anything really being. Look at all these articles all saying the same shit. So, it's a bunch of fear mongering. We're all suffering from it. It's a tough time. But I think the main important thing to do is take those dopamine breaks. If you're able to take walks, go do that. If you're able to clean the house, it just feels better. Nothing. But I feel better doing nothing. If something's bothering you, why? Kind of look at what your response is to that. Think, is this intentional or is this something? Am I responding to this irrationally? The action causing me to feel bad, wrong, or am I reacting wrong? That might help serve some doubt. So if people are annoying you, is it them or is it you or is it a combination of both? Probably both. Except for in my household, it's just my parents. Pretty good, pretty perfect. I don't know. I got another video to do later about cholesterol. Hard to even do this stuff. I like talking about it, but frustrating because same stuff over and over. If I was really gung ho about this, I could just talk all day, every day about the same shit. But no one listens to you anyway. No one really cares. No one's gonna change the way they act because of what I say. So, fun. Hope you guys are all doing well. Better today than you did yesterday.